today? Why? Let me see. Why am I wearing blue? I am wearing blue because for many of the teams in the NFL, it is, or should I say, teams and fans, it is a Blue Monday. Yes, it is. Blue Monday. I hate Blue Monday. Well, not if you're the teams that won. And there are teams that win. So let's cut up. Let's just begin this whole thing. Okay, this is week 14. Review of week 14 in the NFL on the Amazing Great Sports Network. I am Clay Morris reviewing it as I am generally on Monday at 7:30. So if you're here at 7:30 with me, let me see. Anybody in the chat room? Not yet. Not yet. So 7:30 is a bit early for everybody but me and people who want to go out there and get it done. And we're going to get it done. So let's get it done, beginning with the games that I got wrong. The games that I got wrong. There's only three of them. That's right, three, folks. It's only three. Okay? But beginning with the games that I got wrong. Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jaguars were traveling to Nashville, Tennessee to take on the Titans. And if you took the favorite Titans and 13 points, guess what? You lost. That's right. You lost because the Jaguars beat the Titans by 14 points in a score of 36-22. Second-year quarterback Trevor Lawrence, he of the Golden Locks, who supposedly was injured, had an injured big toe last week, came to this game and had his best day in the NFL for 365 yards and 3 touchdowns. If that's the case, they ought to injure his toe every week. That way, he'll have another spectacular game. The Jacksonville defense sacked Titans quarterback Ryan Tannehill 4 times. They forced and recovered 3 fumbles, and they had an interception. In other words, everything went right for the Jaguars and nothing went right for the Titans. Now, the Titans still hold a 2-game lead on the Jaguars in the division. But, and as crazy as this sounds, it may not be enough. Jacksonville may be coming on, and the Titans may be falling back. And I don't know what to say about this whole situation. The Titans had this in the bag for the last 3 weeks, they haven't been able to win a game. And they just keep going further and further back toward the pack. If the Jaguars rise up, that's it. Let's get to the second game that I got wrong. And that involved another animal. Well, they're mostly animals, but another feline animal in the NFL. This time, the Carolina Panthers. Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers. What's the difference between a panther and a jaguar other than spots? Probably not. Still the same animal. And yes, they traveled to Seattle. Yes, Seattle. Now, the Carolina Panthers their ownership had stuck a fork in them 4 or 5 games into the season. And they were traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast. When I say they stuck a fork in them, they traded off their best players. They fired the coach. So they stuck a fork in them and left them for dead 4 or 5 games into the season. I think it was about the 5th game. Then they were traveling from the East Coast to the West Coast. Then they were traveling to one of the loudest stadiums in the NFL, Seattle, okay? Also called the 12th Man. And against one of the better teams in the NFL. And it turns out it didn't matter. It didn't matter at all. Panthers quarterback, well, they defeated the Seahawks 30-24. And the Panthers quarterback, Sam Darnold, was a steady Eddie. He didn't throw for 400 yards. He didn't throw for 300 yards. He didn't even throw for 200 yards. But with 120 yards and no mistakes, the Panthers beat him. They beat him. They beat him down. The Panthers' running game picked up the slack and rushed for 223 yards. And the Carolina defense intercepted quarterback Geno Smith 2 times, sacked him 3 times, forced him to recover the fumble. So, the Panthers are on the move. The Panthers are just now 1 game behind the Tampa Bay Buccaneers for the division lead in the South, of which everybody is below 500 in that whole division. And so it really doesn't matter. Anybody can win. But you know what? I'm going Panthers. I think the Panthers are picking it up. And that head coach, his name escapes me, but that guy has had his team ready each and every week. They have battled each and every week. And if I was that coach, guy, they stuck you in there so that you can manage a losing team. And you took they were supposed to lose team and you made them winners. But you need to go to another franchise that sees your talent, because this team franchise obviously did not see your talent. They thought you were going to lose. So let's move on to the third game that I picked incorrectly. Let's just say that, okay? The Pittsburgh Steelers, always there to disappoint me. Yes, Pittsburgh, well, when they're supposed to win, they lose. And when they lose too. And this time, they were going up against the backup quarterback, Tyler Huntley of the Baltimore Ravens. Anyway, they lost 16-14 in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh lost 16-14 to the Ravens and a backup quarterback. Okay. I thought the Steelers had what it took to win. I was wrong. Their quarterback, Kenny Pickett, was knocked out of the game in the first quarter. Now, with a concussion. And this is the second time this season that this has happened. He suffered his first on October 16th. And in addition to the 2 concussions that he has incurred this season, he also suffered a pretty bad ankle injury in November. Now, this is why I expressly and vigorously campaign against starting rookie quarterbacks too early in the NFL, especially in the first season. Well, yeah, after the first season, yeah, they're good to go. But they have to get up on the speed of the NFL. These guys are fast. The defenses are fast. They're strong. They're long. And they get there so quickly that many of these quarterbacks do not have the time to adjust. They can't make that adjustment because it's not college. College, you have time. In NFL, time can go like that. And that's what happens to a lot of these young quarterbacks. They get injured. Andrew Luck carried it for the rest of his career until he just bowed out. A lot of these guys get injured in their first year, and they're not the same player that they could have been because they were rushed into service. Okay. These rookie quarterbacks deserve some sort of protection instead of being forced in there and likely getting injured, because the coaches, yes, I'm calling out the coaches. The coaches give in to the demands of the fans or the newspapers who are calling for these rookie quarterbacks to be inserted when they have a guy like, okay, the Steelers had a guy, Mitch Trubisky. Mitch has been in the league 5 or 6 years. He has a better handle on what's going to happen than a rookie quarterback. No matter how you look at it, no matter how bad the team is going, he has a better handle on it for at least the first 10 to 12 games. Then that rookie quarterback can see how the NFL is, and then you can probably insert him, and then he can make headway and more than likely stay from being seriously injured and being concussed. Well, Kenny Pickett, I wish you well, but to all you coaches who rush these players in because the guy that you have in there, such as Mitch Trubisky, was not starting off as well as everyone liked him, and all of a sudden they're clamoring, get the rookie quarterback, get that rookie guy, he's a high draft pick, get him in there, okay? You care more about your jobs than you do the player. That's right. You coaches who rush these kids in there, these rookie quarterbacks in there in their first year, within the first game or the first 8 games, you care more about your jobs than you do the player. And your team is not going under. The only thing that's going to happen is that, in this case, and more than likely, is he's going to get hurt. You satisfied the people clamoring for somebody to be sacrificed, which was that quarterback, that young rookie quarterback. But your season is still done because you can't win with a rookie quarterback in the NFL. Joe Burrow's the only guy I know. I think he was a rookie. He's the only rookie quarterback that I know in the history of the NFL, if indeed he was a rookie, that has ever been able to survive a NFL season, and he went to the Super Bowl. But that's 1 out of 500. Those are terrible odds. Don't sacrifice your young quarterback. Don't sacrifice him. If you're any kind of a coach, don't sacrifice him. To finish this game, Mitch Trubisky came in a little bit rusty and threw for 3 interceptions, and That was the game. So the Ravens survived, and that's the one that I had wrong. But let's move on to the ones that I had right. The New York Jets, they shuffled off to Buffalo, okay? And in the snow, and in the cold, and in all the atmosphere, they got served a cold, hard reality. The Buffalo Bills beat them 20-12 and is the better team. That's right. The Buffalo Bills are the better team. The Buffalo defense, okay, this should have been, if this is a boxing match, they would have called this. Somebody would have thrown in the towel. They beat Mike White up so badly that I was feeling bad for him from just watching the hits that he was taking. Robert Saleh should have threw in the towel. I think what happened is he tried to throw in the towel, but the rest of his quarterbacks, after watching this brutality that was being inflicted on Mike White, all of a sudden pulled up with hamstrings and shoulder issues, and you can't put me in, coach. I don't feel good. They were nowhere to be found, and poor Mike White got beat up. But to make a long story short, the Jets have fallen further back in the pack. They have a quarterback situation. They don't know what to do. They have Flacco, they have Ryan, they have White. They're playing White. They think he gives them the best chance, but he got beat up so badly, he should not be playing next week. On the other side, Josh Allen, that quarterback, was his usual rambunctious self. He threw for one touchdown and he ran for another. Buffalo now sits alone on top of the East, on top of the AFC East by 2 games, and they look like they're going to take it. The Cleveland Browns, yes, those Cleveland Browns, traveled into Cincinnati, Ohio, and soundly lost 23-10 to the Cincinnati Bengals. What can you say about this? Here's what I want to say. Joe Burrow is a top 5 quarterback in the NFL. He is I call him a steady Eddie, okay? He won't do anything exciting, but he will do everything well. He has a cannon for an arm. He can run. He's mobile. He can read a defense. He runs your offense flawlessly, and he does it week after week after week, steadily. That being said, that makes him up there in the top 5, because there's many guys that are flashy and look good one week, and then next week they don't look as great. Joe Burrow looks good every week. Win or lose, he's there, and he's doing what he should do in order to win. Okay, let's move on. What should we go to now? Oh, before we move on, let's talk about Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson for the Browns, the guy, the much ballyhoo guy that they waited for after suspension. He looked terrible. This is just his second week back, but yes, he looked terrible. Or as Charles Barkley would say, terrible. But, it really doesn't matter, because he only completed half of his 52 attempts, but it really doesn't matter, because the season is over for the Browns, and it has been for about 4 weeks now. So it really doesn't matter what Deshaun Watson does. Forget about it. Now, and the so-called upset game that I predicted, of course, the Detroit Lions. My Detroit Lions, your Detroit Lions, our Detroit Lions, America's Detroit Lions defeated the Minnesota Vikings 34-23. And it wasn't even that close. Kirk Cousins, the quarterback for Minnesota, he threw for over 400 yards, 440 yards to be exact, and 2 touchdowns, but he was sacked 3 times and hit hard numerous times in the loss. And Jeff Goff, the guy who was traded to Detroit for Matthew Stafford, who's now out, but Matthew Stafford went on that year to get a Super Bowl. Jeff Goff is now thriving as a Detroit Lion. He threw for 330 yards and 3 touchdowns. Jeff Goff, the guy who was much maligned in LA, is now thriving in Detroit. Now, after losing 6 of their first 7 games, it doesn't look like Detroit can snap back and get into it in the playoff position. But they've become a team that nobody in the NFL, not the Eagles, not San Francisco, nobody wants to face the Detroit Lions right now. Not Dallas especially. We'll talk about them later. But the Detroit Lions have become the team that nobody in the NFL wants to face. even though it doesn't look like they're going to make it in the playoffs because they lost 6 of the first 7 games. And I think right now the record stands at 6-7 after 13 games. 6-7, I believe. So they're still below 500, and it doesn't. Even if they ran the table of the next 4 games, what would that put them at? 10-7. It might not be good enough. So they are fascinating. They are ferocious, and they are fun to watch. But I don't know if they're going to make it. Now, in a game that I predicted would be a blowout for the Dallas Cowboys, wouldn't you know it? Dallas Cowboys almost lost this game. I predicted it would be a blowout, and the Cowboys just managed to eke out a 27-23 win over the Houston Texans. The one win for the season, Houston Texans. Now, many of you want to know how this happened. Okay, but let's not get into that. Let's just say Houston led in the first quarter, and then after the second quarter, they still led. That means they led at halftime. After the third quarter, they still led, and into the fourth, until 40 seconds was left in the game, when the game was 23-20, Houston led and was going to win if they could have held on for 40 more seconds. But as Houston does, they lost. With 40 seconds to go, Dak Prescott threw a touchdown, and they went up 26 point after, made it 27-23. And that, my friends, is the game. And we won't even go into the stats because it really wasn't what Houston did. It was what Dallas didn't do. I mean, they looked at Houston's record, 1 win, and they said, you know what, really? Do we really have to practice? And then when they were practicing, they were thinking about pizza or chicken wings or wine or champagne, whatever they were thinking about. Maybe it was a daytime drama or something. Their mind was not on Houston, nor should it have been. Houston has only won 1 game, and it's understandable that if a team is not thinking about Houston, they are well within their right. But it almost cost them. Now, the other team in the division, the real team in Dallas Cowboys division, the Philadelphia Eagles, they marched into the Meadowlands, and unlike Dallas, they played like a top-tier team should play. They kicked the New York Giants down to the size of midgets with a 48-22 win. 48 points. They scored 48 points. Yeah, that's even a lot in basketball. Anyway, the Eagles defense set the tone early in this game when on the Giants' first possession, they sacked Daniel Jones twice and made them punt. They were hard sacks too. They weren't easy like pull down sacks. They were hard sacks. They got to him, and they got to him quickly. And then once New York punted, the Eagle offense took over, and they drove the ball 85 yards. They drove the ball 85 yards down the field for a touchdown in 14 plays. So the Eagles defense set the tone by sacking Daniel Jones twice. The Eagles offense gets the ball, drives down the field 85 yards in 14 plays, and scores a touchdown. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a championship team that we're looking at, the Philadelphia Eagles. That is them. And also, they used up 8 minutes of the clock. That tells you, sports fans, that tells you everything you need to know. The Eagles controlled the ball, they controlled the action, they controlled the game, and they put on the clinic. This guy, Jalen Hurts, has a cannon. I don't even know, there's got to be a better word for that. But he can throw the ball at least 70 yards. At least, if he has to. Okay? But he can throw it on the line 40, 50 yards. Easily. He's making this look easy. The guy can run. He can probably outrun most of the defense. I mean, and a lot of the defensive backs would have a hard time catching him. None of these linebackers are going to catch him. None of these linemen are going to catch him. And these defensive backs, whether they're safeties, they might not be able to catch Jalen Hurts. He's that fast. Okay. And in addition to all of that, mobile, fast, can throw the ball a mile, and they can throw it accurately. floated in. The kid has learned how to read a defense. And so, 50 points. They can put up 50 on you easy. The Philadelphia Eagles offense can put 50 up on any team in the NFL because Jalen Hurts has become a student of the game. He is that good. Now, the Eagles defense, in addition to the Eagles offense being off the charts, the Eagles defense is mean. They are nasty, and they are really, 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 really tough. And they like being that way. They can bring the hammer down, as Daniel Jones found out, with just a 4-man rush. They can bring the hammer down on you. And they hit hard in coverage. So this Philadelphia is the number 1 team in NFC. Period. Now, we go from number 1 to somewhere down in the depths of the catacombs when we go to the next game. And no, just slightly, only for 1 team. Because the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, Tom Brady and Tampa Bay Buccaneers traveled to San Francisco to take on the 49ers. Yes. And they got their timbers shivered to the tune of 35-7. And they were lucky to score that 7 points. Let me put it this way, ladies and gentlemen. San Francisco went up and down the field on that paper mache defense, or that paper mache, whatever it is that they call a defense in Tampa Bay, like they weren't there. Let's just go from the first thing. Okay, on the opening drive, San Francisco got the ball on the opening drive. And from there, they drove down the field. Why? How? They were just able to do it. The Tampa Bay had nothing for them. They did whatever they want whenever they wanted. They went down the field, I think they went 70 yards in about 8 plays, straight down the field for a touchdown. Okay? That was on the opening drive. Tampa Bay got the ball back and drove down the field and missed a field goal. And then what happened? Of course, San Francisco got the ball back again, drove the length of the field, I think it was 60 yards, for another touchdown. These are 2 touchdowns on 2 possessions. Okay, so Tampa Bay gets the ball back. This is the second possession, and they sputtered. They haven't had a good season offensively anyway. We'll go into that later, but they sputtered, punted the ball. And what happened? Yes, San Francisco went down the field again. So the first time they went down for, I think, 80 yards. The second time, they went 60 yards. And on their third possession, they went 70 yards on the first possession. 60 yards to go on the second possession. And then on the third possession, they went 71 yards. So we went from 80 to 60 to 71. These are time-consuming drives where they're just going down the field on the Tampa Bay defense as if they're not there. Now, that may say a lot about San Francisco, but it also says a lot about Tampa Bay's supposedly good top 5 defense. That it really wasn't a top 5 defense because it was playing putrid offenses like Pittsburgh and other ones that really weren't that good at that time. New Orleans with Andy Dalton. Give me a break. But anyway, what I'm saying is that I think it was in the first half, but definitely close to the first quarter, it was already 21-0. 21-0 San Francisco. 21-0. We're talking about San Francisco, really good team. And the Buccaneers are down 21-0. Well, that essentially was the game, ladies and gentlemen, right there. That's the game. Tampa Bay's defense the Tampa Bay, which has been a mediocre defense against bad offenses, gets chewed up by good offenses. They got chewed up by Kansas City and they got chewed up by San Francisco to the tune of 40 and 30, whatever the points they put up. Anyway, it's like a mercy rule. After a while, they get out so far in front, they don't even care. They just take it easy on them. The Tampa Bay defense is 30th in the league in takeaways. 30th in the league. There's only 32 teams in the league. Okay. But notwithstanding, the Tampa Bay offense has been terrible also. They can't run the ball. They can't pass protect, and the receivers can't get open. As we look at the state of the Buccaneers, let's be frank. Todd Bowles took over a pretty good team, and now they seem to have no clue of what to do on either side of the ball. Todd Bowles, as he was in New York, is incompetent as a head coach. He's a good lieutenant. He can take orders. But as a head coach, words cannot describe how bad a seemingly good team like Tampa Bay with a good quarterback and a supposedly good defense, words cannot describe how bad they are other than to say, I think their record is 6-8 for the year. We don't even need the words. We can just use their record. They have 6 wins and 8 losses in a terrible division that they should dominate and kill. The division is so bad that they should have 8, 9 wins based on that alone. And they can't do that. Well, meanwhile, San Francisco may have finally found their quarterback. Brock Purdy looked like the second coming of Joe Montana out there. He was slicing and dicing, throwing and wheeling, running and dishing all over the place. And he made it look easy. San Francisco may have found the quarterback of the future. And I mean that. The future is looking good in San Francisco. They, to me, are the number 2 team in the NFC behind the Eagles. Now, we move on. I'm being a little bit wordy, so I'm going to try to speed it up. The Kansas City Chiefs, they went into Mile High Stadium and put the boots to the Denver Broncos. Now, I predicted it would be a blowout, but we're talking about the Denver Broncos. And who doesn't beat the Denver Broncos? I mean, who doesn't? I think there's only been a couple of teams that managed to lose to Denver this year. Anyway, magical Pat Mahomes has been putting up magical numbers, crazy numbers all season. And yesterday was no exception. He threw for over 350 yards and 3 touchdowns. Who does that? Patrick Mahomes. His counterpart, Russell Wilson, had his best game of the season and for the Broncos, going for 250 yards and 3 touchdowns while being sacked 6 times. The Chiefs are the lead dogs in the AFC West Division, and the Broncos, well, they are just the dogs of the division. And in the final game of Sunday, the Los Angeles Chargers did what I expected them to do. They defeated the Miami Dolphins, and they did it 23-17. Why? Why did I predict that? Because the Dolphins do not travel well. Nope. They're now 3-4 away. And they've had a little trouble just maintaining their offensive, what they were doing the whole beginning of the season. There's been a drop-off, is what I'm trying to say. 2 tags to Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, and I think they have another guy that's pretty good. But it's been a serious drop-off, okay? That being said, also, the Chargers. The Los Angeles Chargers do something. This is what they do better than anything else for the last 3 years, is play the role of the underdog spoiler. The spoiler. You know, when you don't expect them to win, or when they're playing the team that is supposedly better than them, much better than them, or better than them, you know, at a situation where they should not be in the game, Los Angeles wins. So why? Why did they? I have no idea why. But that's what they do. They wait to a situation where they're so down, it doesn't look like they're going to stand. Well, actually, they're at 7-5, I believe, or maybe they're 7 and whatever they are. They're second behind Kansas City in that division. They're not going to catch Kansas City. There's no way. But they might be able to get into a playoff division spot now. So now they start winning and tease everybody. But this is what they do. They play up to the competition. So when they're playing somebody like Miami, they get up for them. And when they're playing somebody like Houston, they come down to play them. They don't really come with the same enthusiasm, the same thrust, the same will in order to win a game. So that's the reason why they're having trouble. But to make a long story short, Justin Herbert threw for over 350 yards, while Tua Tagovailoa managed only 145 yards for Miami. And Miami now sits 2 in back of the Bills, and when they keep this up, they're going to be dropping out of the playoff really soon if this line continues. That, ladies and gentlemen, sums up what happened yesterday. Okay, and as we know, the Rams beat the Raiders on Thursday. There's one game left. The Patriots will take on the Arizona Cardinals, and I'm taking the Cardinals. I mean, I'm not having any emotional thing about the reason why I'm taking the Cardinals is that I don't like a certain coach of the Patriots and some of his machinations. That's not really the case. I'm taking the Cardinals because I think the Cardinals are going to play up again. Another team that plays up to their competition and plays down. They've had an up and down season, but playing out in Arizona, having 2 weeks off, I think they're going to come with a new attitude, and they might surprise New England. Now, to me, New England's the better team on paper. Defense, offense. But I think Arizona might come with a little bit more impetus, especially playing at home. We'll see what happens. But as it stands now, I only had 3 games wrong and the rest of them right. I believe how many that is. I don't know. There's just so many I can't even count. We will say this. I am Clay Marshall of the Amazing Grace Sports Network. I had a ball. This is right. This is Monday, the Monday Morning Review. And remember, you are the most important person in sports. Yes, you, the fan. Take care of yourselves. Think about yourselves. You come first. And if it is a Blue Monday for you, just remember, Monday is always the beginning. It can always be the beginning of something magical in your life. You take care of yourself. I love you. Peace, love, happiness. You take care. I will see you tomorrow on NBA Tuesday, where we cover the Eastern Conference of the NBA. I'll see you then. Meanwhile, celebrate the passion, spirituality, and unity of sports by taking care of yourself. Goodbye, everybody.